First up, 1964, the year the Rolling Stones released this classic, Not Fade Away.
Sweet dreams are made of these. Who am I to disagree?
Fast forward almost 20 years for the next milestone. It's 1983. Remember it? It's when the Eurythmics released Sweet Dreams. And 1991 is the final crucial year, with hip-hop having a huge impact, like this LL Cool J track Mama Said Knock You Out. Quite different then. So what is it about those years that makes them more important than all the others? Dr. Matthias Mauch carried out the study at Queen Mary's University, and Sam Wolfson is the executive editor of Noisey, which is part of the Vice magazine empire. Matthias, how did you go about, well, deciding which years are the most important?
Yeah, so we took a big sample of popular music. We took the US Billboard Hot 100 over 50 years, got 17,000 recordings, and we analyzed them using our signal processing tools and extracted lots of different stuff, harmony and timbre features. And then what we could do is actually look at, from year to year, how these features changed most, or when these features changed most. And these three periods is when they changed most quickly.
Let's just go back to the early 60s. 64 in particular you've identified because of the British invasion in America. So already, because you're looking at American trends, it's quite obvious there that's why 64 has been thrown up.
Because you think the British are different? They're coming in, or...?
Well, I guess from a British point of view, you could argue a bit earlier than that, I suppose, with the rise of the Beatles.
Yeah, so the Beatles rose here in Britain earlier, and then they actually came into the US quite late, so in that year. So it's actually quite nice coincidence of the Beatles coming in.
Sam, there's quite a big leap then, isn't there, from 64 right up to 83 that Matthias has announced.
Yeah.
Missing, well, loads of stuff.
Absolutely. I guess when you're looking at the kind of textures of music, there can be a lot of cultural revolutions. You know, you think of the 60s, all this political activity with Dylan and anti-war movements in music, but when you're actually just focusing, as you guys were, on the kind of timbre and the instrumentation and the sound, then it's the advent of technology that I think makes the biggest difference, because when you start bringing in more electronics and more synthesizers, then you get quite a completely different sounding music.
Really? I mean, Matthias, didn't the sound of 75, the Sex Pistols, didn't that do something to the data?
Well, so the punk movement is actually not very prominent in the US. We did actually, so we did identify these three big revolutions, we call them, but of course the music also changed between them. So
yeah.
Actually around 75, disco was coming in big time in the US, but it came in a bit more slowly in our data. So we saw these minor seventh chords, the typical dangly disco chords rise at that time. So.
Yes, I'm thinking of Chic as well. Love a bit of
Oh
Chic.
yeah, that's great.
Let's move it further on again then. So 83, we've got the electronic music, but also the middle of the road stuff, the rise of the likes of, well, Phil Collins. Is he really that defining of an era? Sam?
I suppose, you know, even though it's very middle of the road music, there were things that Phil Collins was doing in terms of sound that are quite revolutionary.
Those drums.
Those drums. And I think that, you know, over a long period of time, like even something like a snare drum from the 60s to now just sounds completely different because of technology and the tightening. And I imagine you can hear those kinds of changes.
Yeah, definitely.
1991 then, so you're saying that is the defining era year of hip-hop, because it had been going on for quite a long time before that, hadn't it?
Yeah, hip-hop was started in the late 70s and sort of slowly grew in the 80s, but actually mainly in the New York area, right? So it was not
With
an actual...
Grandmaster Flash, there he is.
Yeah. It started then, but it didn't actually get into the charts very much. So it was kind of an underground movement. There was some hits. There was Run DMC and there was Grandmaster Flash with The Message, for example. Yeah. But then what happened later was that perhaps there was more national coverage, and it really came in 91.
Know them all well. Very quickly, the years that define you, because it's so personal. Sam, which year?
I think around the 2000s, when there was a lot of R&B and stuff in America.
Because you're a bit younger, Matthias?
91, because I first heard Bohemian Rhapsody.
Fantastic. Thank you both very much indeed.